Hi, folks, and welcome to the Gridiron Report, a new weekly segment we do here at RiverbendSportsNetwork.com, where we look at the top stories in Fredericksburg Regional High School football action. My name is Mark Coleman. We are joined again this week by Fredericksburg's freelance star sports reporter, Nathan Waters. Hi, Nathan.
Hey Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. Nathan can be followed on Twitter at Nathan Waters, as well as the new freelance star varsity's Twitter handle, and that is at FLS Varsity. Nathan, we've got our first week of games under our belt. Pretty exciting week. Two of the top five teams in the Fredericksburg Power Poll lost. Of course, two were playing each other, so it's not too much of a surprise. Brook Point was handled was dealt a pretty big blow by Briarwoods, though. That was a little bit of a shock there, huh?
Yeah, I think the score was a shock. The outcome wasn't really a shock. Briarwoods is it's gonna be tough to beat by anybody. I know Colonial Forge has got a great team, and that's going to be a challenge for them this week. But Briarwoods is they're in a different stratosphere as far as success recently. I think they've won 30 straight. So Brook Point will be okay. I'm thinking that they've had some adjustment period, some things to kind of get adjusted to, and playing Briarwoods right off the bat after the coaching change right before the start of the season is probably not the way you want to start. But it's Briarwoods, so I think you could probably write that off as just playing a really good team.
Sure. And of course, Mountain View had a tough opener as well. I believe you were at that game against Verina. What were your thoughts coming away from that night?
Verina is a very good football team. I think Mountain View is it's a team that you're going to have to wait and kind of see what they're made of. They had to start a freshman quarterback in place of Elijah Burris, who is still nursing the scars that he had in that appendectomy he had during preseason practice. Coach Lou Sorrentino told me that he expects to have him back sometime soon. I think this week still might be a little ambitious, but they were undermanned, playing a really good team on the road to start the season on Thursday night, and I think that's another one of those, you just chalk it up to playing a really good veteran, senior-laden team, and Verina is definitely that.
And we certainly hope that Elijah heals quickly, but is fully healed before he comes back. But I hate to see a kid miss time due to injury or some sort of medical emergency like that. And then, of course, we had the number one Massaponax team playing number 5 Cortland. The score was a little bit lopsided, but it sounds like the game was actually a little bit closer than the score would indicate.
Yeah, I think I think it took, from the sounds of it, I think it took the defense for Massaponax a little bit of time to kind of get into their groove, and I think once they did that, they were able to kind of put everything together and come away with a win. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from the opener for both teams is that for Massaponax, their offense is going to be stout. They've got so many ball carriers who can do big things in that offense. Their defense is really good, but they're going to need each other to kind of keep opponents at bay. And the offense came around early, defense came around late, and they were able to kind of hold them off. I think Cortland will be fine too. Massaponax has won that game the last 5 years to open the season, and Cortland's been pretty good. They've done some good things, the last 5 seasons. So I think Cortland will be just fine as well.
Yeah, those opening losses don't always indicate poor performance over the course of a regular season. I'm wondering, though, Nathan, what are your thoughts? We've seen a couple of teams schedule some pretty impressive opponents in early weeks. We have Colonial Forge taking on Briarwoods this week. A lot of that is necessitated by openings in the schedule and just the availability of teams. But what does that do for an organization, for a program, when they schedule such challenging opposition in the early weeks of the season?
Well, what it does is it makes the preseason that much more competitive, that much more, it's a lot more vibrant during the preseason because these kids know what they're going up against in week one. But a lot of these games, that's not the purpose of scheduling them. These ADs are scheduling these games because they need to schedule them. There's openings. I wrote about that for the Mountain View Verina game. Mountain View had an opening. They had a team back out of their slot there at the beginning of the year. They needed a game. And Verina said, "Well, come on down." And Verina knew what they had, and and it's tough for a team that's young, that's nursing some injuries, to go down on the road early and play a team of that caliber. Same goes for Brook Point. Um, I think some of these teams relish the opportunity to be challenged, and I'm not, I think Mountain View relished that, and I think Brook Point relished that. But a lot of times, you don't know what you got. You're still kind of working through some of the issues that your team has, injuries, personnel. A lot of times the quarterback in week one isn't the quarterback in week two, week three. You're still working through personnel things. So scheduling a dominant team early in the season, a dominant team that knows what they've got coming back, a dominant team that has players that have played at the state level. That's a hard thing to do. And but recently, a lot of teams in our area, that's what they've had to do, because there's just not a lot of teams out there that that have openings. You're just trying to find what you can get, basically.
And probably not coincidentally, it seems like the teams that are strong in our area that are facing those tough teams from outside the region. So there probably is maybe a circular argument, but there probably is some cause and effect there for scheduling those challenging opponents early in the season.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's, you see it at every level. You see it in college. The teams, they'll schedule the really high caliber teams early, because that's also a good opportunity to catch them off guard. And it's also a good litmus test for a team that, if the team thinks they're good and they've got what it takes to be successful, it's an easy way to, kind of see where they are early in the season. But it ain't college football. This is high school football. You only have 10 games to prove what you got, and you got to earn points. You got to make sure that you're getting into the playoffs somehow. And scheduling these games against these really high class, high caliber teams sometimes can backfire on you.
A quality loss is still a loss.
Absolutely, and I think from talking to the Mountain View players and Coach Sorrentino at Mountain View, they weren't hanging their heads. I mean, they found out some stuff about themselves. They found out how tough they were. They battled there in the third and the fourth quarter. They didn't roll over and let Verona just do what they wanted to do. So they learned about themselves. They know they've got a freshman who's capable of making plays at quarterback if need be. They answered some questions about themselves early, and I guarantee you that Brook Point was saying the same thing after Briarwoods. Like I said before, Briarwoods, that's just a different class of team at this point.
Sure.
And I'm not saying they're unbeatable, but I'm just saying they're a tough team to beat, any time of the season, let alone week one.
Right. Some pretty impressive individual performances during week one. The Freelance Star named A.J. Forbes from Massaponax as the player of the week. 12 carries for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. But some other big games from around the area as well, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of fun on Saturday to pick up the paper and kind of scour the box score and see what other guys did. I was eager to see what North Stafford's offense was going to do after graduating Brandon Ravenel and Anthony Shagag and Kwesi Dadsey and debuting a freshman quarterback, and their offense looked like they were pretty on point there against Petersburg. Von Purvis scored 4 touchdowns. Cedric Watkins, their wide receiver, had a really big game. I think he was over 100 yards receiving. And their freshman quarterback, Pat Ayala, he played pretty well there in his very first game as a varsity player. So it's impressed by those guys. Zach Sims at Riverbend had a really big game for them against Chancellor in the opener. I was impressed by the numbers that he put up. I think the Colonial Forge offense put up some big numbers. I think Damon Daniel had a really good game. Their tight end, whose name is really hard to pronounce, but he was really good as well. There was a lot of guys. I think Javante Latney at Massaponax, he had a really good game. Their quarterback, whose name escapes me right now, he also had a really good game. So there was some big offensive performances. Unfortunately, we don't have the benefit of getting those defensive stats in the paper right away, because a lot of times those are kind of hard to get. But I'm sure there was a lot of defensive standouts too. There was I think we got a kind of an idea of who's got what early in the year, just based on those games in week one.
Lots of fun, and looking forward to a great season, but also looking forward to an exciting second week. Nathan, who is the Freelance Star or which game is the Freelance Star identifying as their game of the week?
Well, our game of the week is North Stafford at James Monroe, and I think that's pretty clear that both those teams are both gearing up for another state playoff run. I think they both have their sights set on making it to the state title game and winning it all this year. And they're both very defensive oriented teams. They both have a lot of experience, and they're both established programs. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see them play each other there at Morey Field. I've looked back. I meant to go and look in our archives to see when the last time they played each other was, but it's been at least a decade. So,
Oh, I didn't
kind
realize that.
of cool to see cross county or going across, one Stafford County school playing a city school, and the history that these teams have, and as successful as they've been in recent years. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch them play each other. I'm expecting a pretty close game between these two, just based on the defenses that they have. I think JM's got some experience back at quarterback. North Stafford, like I said, they've got a freshman playing at quarterback, so I'm sure Rich Survey there at James Monroe is going to have something ready for him, defensive fresh package for him. But it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a chess match. Two good very well coached teams. I'm expecting a really good game on that one. You also have Briarwoods again. They're, Colonial Forge is going to have to, face off against those guys. I think, I give Forge a pretty good shot at giving them a game and possibly ending that streak. I think Forge is a really good team. I think, Highland Springs, they lost one game last year, and they returned a lot of talent from that team last year, and Forge played them really well this past week. And it's gonna they're gonna have to play a little bit better in the defensive secondary against that quarterback that Briarwoods has, but that's going to be I think that'll be a good matchup as well. And then we've got Riverbend and Cortland, their second game, Riverbend's second game this year. I think that's it's going to be a kind of an interesting game to look at, just to see where Riverbend is. I mean, that was an impressive performance to shut out Chancellor in the opening game, and I think some people are eager to see, well, how good is this Riverbend team? Are they going to be a factor there in the Commonwealth and in their conference? And this will be another game where they can kind of judge where they are early in the season.
Lots to look forward to for week 2 in Fredericksburg Regional High School football. Nathan, I certainly appreciate your time here this week. It was great chatting with you once again. You can follow Nathan on Twitter. He is at Nathan Warders, also at FLS Varsity. 2 great follows, highly recommend it. Again, my name is Mark Coleman with RiverbendSportsNetwork.com. This has been the Gridiron Report, and we will see you next week. Thank you.